All right, we're live.
All
Welcome
right.
to the welcome to the TCG show, where we talk to vendors and other TCG influencers about what it is to break into the vending biz and the TCG business. Today we have Karen, the New York City Plushie Queen. She has been she vended with us at our very first New Jersey TCG show, and now she's gone everywhere. So we're going to hear all about Karen and how she took her business from a side hustle to her full-time working as a TCG seller. So welcome, Karen.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Thank you. So tell us how long have you been vending?
So I've been vending since October, I think 2022. After a while, the years tend to blur together.
Yeah.
But
how did
you... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
How did you start with vending? Did you just start with a show, or did you start selling plushies from home? How did you get started?
So I actually first started with streaming on Whatnot. I was streaming TCG. Somebody had told me about it, and I had gotten approved, and I waited a while before starting because I'm not the most comfortable in front of an audience, whether or not my face is showing. So It took me some time to actually do it and get started. So I started with that, and then my brother actually told me about the Big Apple the TCG show in Manhattan. And he asked if I wanted to go check it out. So we actually went on the wrong day. We were there a day early, so he couldn't go the next day.
My goodness.
But I went by myself to go check it out, and I met some vendors, and I bought a slab for myself. And I talked to some vendors, and they encouraged me to get started with streaming because I have an advantage because I'm female. Which, since I wasn't sure days, I don't think I really had much of an advantage. But I had fun with it. I was doing TCG for a few months, and then the what was it? Trying to remember exactly the timeline. I think it was the Charizard, the special delivery Charizard promo that came out. So I had gotten some codes off of eBay, and people were saying that if you wanted your promo to be protected, order a plushie to go with it. So that was when I started selling the plushies online on my streams, and people liked it. So I was sourcing more, but from the US site, which wasn't very plentiful to begin with. And then the Pichu promo came out in Japan, and I had read about using a proxy to buy something from the Japan Pokemon Center just to get the promo. And I went through all these steps, and I got the promo, and then I realized, I could just pay $10 off of eBay.
Yeah.
Instead of going.
How much did it end up spending, and how much time did it have to go through in order to get it? I mean,
so it was probably more than I should have. That first package I shipped from Japan was mostly stuff for my personal use. Like I had ordered a bunch of Kit Kats and pimple cream for myself. The only thing that was Pokemon related was the booster box of VMAX Climax and the Pichu promo. And I shipped it by sea. I didn't think that it would take 3 months to get here, but it really took 3 months to get here. Wow. And it was during the middle of the summer, so by the time I got my package, all my Kit Kats had melted. So,
oh my gosh.
So that was
how. Did you eat them? That's. I mean, I would probably, find a way.
Yeah, I still ate them, but I was like, man, that was not smart on my part. So that kind of opened the doors for me. Then I started to think if I can get stuff like this from Japan, and I can get stuff that's out of stock and bring it to the US, then that could really be something. And that kind of just snowballed into this big thing today.
On average, how many packages do you send out a week?
So it really differs with the season. Rebecca from LITCG actually asked me last month how many orders did I get in a week, and I remember looking the third week of December, I had over 100 orders in that 1 week.
Oh my gosh.
Now that the holidays are over, it's less. So I'm down to maybe, I would say if I get 10 orders in a day during the off season, then I feel like for me it's pretty good.
Wow, 10 orders a day. That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
do you mostly get your orders from your website, or are there people that are DMing you, or are they just people that are ordering from shows and then you ship them out?
So I prefer it to be done on my website. Before I was fine taking orders through DMs, but with the amount of people who message me and the people I talk to, it's hard for me to remember
Right.
who wanted what. So whenever anyone wants anything, I tell them just go through the website. If I need to put it up, I'll put it up. But most of it's from the website. I have like maybe 1 or 2 people that I've known since I first started. Obviously they're, I don't want to say they're easier to remember, but we've had a relationship for years. So it's easier for me to fulfill their orders. Whereas if I have 20 people that I have to keep track of in my DMs, it's very difficult for me.
When did you start actually vending, like setting up a table, and what did you have at your table?
So I first started vending in October of, I believe it's 2022. It was at Morris County Card Show.
Oh.
It was I had wanted to do Woodbridge, but I couldn't get a table then. So I figured I'll just start with Morris and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So at my first show, I had like really terrible singles. I had just a terrible selection of just cards and TCG. I had like packs. I had
What were your packs? Do you remember how long back then? What were the hot packs that you had? Or what were garbage packs back then, but now they're really
so I had a lot of Vivid Voltage because I had bought like a case from one of the websites at a good price. So I had Vivid Voltage, I think like Battle Styles, and just like I think there might have been some Fusion Strike in there too. Nothing too crazy. And then I had a lot of the Rement blind boxes. So those were like my more unique items at the time. And then I had some like replica plushies that I had found online. So people had like a selection to choose from, but it's definitely nothing like it is what I have today.
Yeah. Today, how many on like an average table, if you're going to my show or the Long Island TCG show, I know we'll ask, how long does it take you to set up, and approximately how many plushies do you set up?
So it depends on how many tables I have. On average, I usually get 2 tables. So if I have 2 tables, it takes me about 2 hours to set up, and that's with an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's with my fiance helping me. And the number of plushies that I have, I couldn't even begin to tell you. It's just a lot. It's whatever I have on hand and whatever I can fit in my car.
Yeah, I know that you usually bring big totes and you're in and out from your car for, and whoever can help you. I know that you've recruited Nicole a couple times to help you set up, because it's a lot of plushies, but it's great because if you don't have it out, then you can't sell it, right?
Exactly.
So people want a variety, and I know from the shows and even people coming into my husband's store, if they know that there's a show coming up, they'll always ask for you. Like, oh, is Karen coming? And it's the repeat customers. They just love you. They love your variety. They love your plushes. They love that you have a different variety of not just plushes. You have snacks and other toys, and also TCG at your table.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about sourcing all of that? Is it all through ordering on websites, or how do you usually get it?
So with the plushies, I primarily source them myself from websites. I would say Taiwan and Singapore and Indonesia are the only countries where I have people buying it for me.
Oh, wow.
Only because in Korea. So I have people helping me buy it because their websites don't take foreign credit cards, or there's just no website for me to order from. But I source the items from China and Japan myself. And then for TCG, I have a guy who sells me sealed products. I actually met him while selling bulk, and now we're pretty good friends.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I buy a lot of singles off of Facebook and Instagram.
So tell me about going to Japan. How often are you going, and what are you bringing, and how are you getting everything back?
So I went last year I went to Japan twice. The first time was kind of a trip with me and my fiance and I, to go source some items and for him to see the country. That was at the time, that was my second time going to Japan. So I had already seen the sites, but he hadn't. So it was more for, shopping and for him to see the country. We didn't see a lot because we just spent so much time going to Pokemon centers and going to different stores and just shopping. But he had a good time. We also went to Taiwan and Singapore afterwards to do a little bit of shopping and sightseeing. And then the second time that I went last year, I primarily went to shop a little bit more. My primary motivation was for the Halloween exclusive at Universal Studios. So I had read that in September they had lifted the purchase limits for their plushies. So I was like, okay, let me see when I can go and if I can get a flight on credit card points. So long story short, I found a flight and I went. And that was the day that I flew out was actually my last day at work.
Wow. Let's talk about that. I mean, well, first I want to talk about going to Japan. So you went there by yourself to just to source all the plushies, and are you just rolling around? Do you speak any other languages, or is it hard to communicate with everyone over there, or what? How do you speak any Japanese, or are you using like translator apps?
No, I don't speak any Japanese. So the language barrier was probably the biggest challenge in Japan, because they don't speak English over there. So I use translator apps and gestures to try to communicate. Most
you're
of the time,
Pokemon, like what? Like what? Yeah, you're like, I'm looking for this Pikachu.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was there by myself, I kind of had like an idea of where I wanted to hit. But it was a lot harder on my own than I realized because, I'm traveling, even though I could be on a train for 2 hours each way, it still gets tiring at the end of the day.
Right.
You're
carrying everything. Are you just walking around with a rolling suitcase, or how are you carrying everything?
So Japan is nice in that they have coin lockers. Oh. So if I have a lot of bags, I'll just pay a couple, like 100 yen to, I think that's the cheapest. I think the bigger lockers are like 500 yen, which is just a couple of dollars. So anytime I get a big hoard of bags, I just put it in there so that I'm able to freely walk around. But then the challenge is getting all of that back to the hotel.
Right.
But yeah, I was hand carrying a lot of the things. I feel like bringing a suitcase is more cumbersome than it really is. But some people may disagree. But but yeah, that was the hard part, not having anyone to help me with my bags while I was in.
So you went from, how long were you vending I want to say per diem. See, this is the medical the healthcare worker in me. So how long were you per diem doing, but how long were you vending part-time or on the weekends and with your website? And when did you decide it was going to be time for you to do this full time? And at what point were you like, okay, this is it. I can sustain myself with this amount of sales and let's go.
So I had vended from October 2022 up until October 2024, actually. So exactly 2 years. Wow. And in the beginning, I was vending out at a lot of local shows just to see just to meet new clientele and just to see like how each area does. And because I didn't have a lot of product and I just wanted to get my name out there. So what made me start to think about leaving my full-time job was back in last December 2023, I had sprained my ankle and I sprained it over Christmas break. So I was working in a school, so we were off for like a week and a half for Christmas. So I had to take like an additional 2-3 weeks from work once the holidays was over. So I felt like, I was getting a lot of orders and I was able to take my time and just like do everything that I needed to do throughout the day, that when it was getting closer for me to return to work, I was asking myself, how am I going to sustain this? How am I going to have time to do everything? Because when packages come in, like I have to do my stories, I have to catalog everything, price everything out, and I have people hitting me up asking, when is this going to go up? What's the cost going to be? So I have to answer DMs too. So, that takes up a lot of time, and it just got to the point where I just didn't have time to do everything, package all the orders that I had to get out after work. Because, I worked until 3 o'clock, but then by the time I get home, it's 4 o'clock. I have less than an hour to get people's orders out. It was fine when I had like 1 or 2 sitting cutie orders to ship out after work, but it was just getting to the point where I had so many, and if I had a package that needed to be bubble wrapped and more carefully packaged, that took up a lot more time. So at the end, and then I was also telling myself, if I'm able to do this much money per month in gross sales, then I think I'll be okay. Because I was basing it off of my what I was making monthly, and if I do a percentage of this amount in gross sales, then I think I'll be fine. So yeah.
So you hit your goal and that was it.
Yep.
How did it feel when you walked into your boss's office and you're like, that's it, this is where I'm going?
So I actually did not get to speak to my principal. I was trying to see her face to face, but our schedules just didn't align. So I ended up having to call her like the day before my last day, before the deadline. I had to put in my 4 weeks notice. So I actually spoke to her on the phone, and she was surprised, but she was also very supportive.
Oh, that's nice. So it wasn't like a slam the door, I can't believe you're doing this situation.
No, yeah, she was.
I'm working in healthcare. Sometimes there's like some, resentment or whatever that happens with the boss, and like, where are you going to go, and any of that. So I'm glad that they were supportive. It's a huge leap, and I'm so proud of you, because I mean, like, you've built such a plushie empire. So So at what point were you stepping away from TCG cards to more plushies? So it sounds like in the beginning it was TCGs, and now were you just seeing that you were more interested in plushies, or was it that plushies were selling more? What made you transition mostly into plushies?
So it was a combination of reasons. I would say around 2023, like January, February 2023 was when my stock exploded. Plushies were just they were easier for me to source, because I can just go online, and whatever I want, I'll just order it and send it over. It's not like TCG where I have to contact Joe Schmo from Facebook and hope he doesn't scam me. So the plushies, like, people love the plushies, and you just don't see a lot of people selling such a big variety. So I wanted to bring something different to the community and offer what is usually harder to find and at a better price. Because if you look on eBay, a lot of these prices they're higher, or they may be like slightly lower than what I'm selling for, but then you have to wait like 2 to 4 weeks just to get it. So some people like to have their stuff right away. So it's to know that it's already here in the US, they know they're not going to be waiting forever for it. And because I do my stories, people know that what I'm sourcing is legitimate.
Right. And that's the thing too, when you're buying at a show versus buying on a website, that you were able to like feel it and touch it, you know what it is, you are able to see the tags, you know that everything is real. Do you feel like there's a lot of competition between your products and other products that aren't authentic at shows?
I don't think so. I feel like each category has its own customers. I feel like most of my customers are adults around my age or slightly younger, because you have people who like to collect licensed products, and then you have people who don't really care where it's coming from, as long as it looks good to them.
Right.
So I feel like I wouldn't say there's a lot of competition. People are going to shop with who they want to shop with, and why they want to shop with them. So I see because I know there's a lot of parents who might not want to spend $20 on a sitting cutie, but they'll see more value in a $20 12-inch plushie that's
Right.
not licensed. And that's totally fine. You know, I welcome collectors of all types, and I feel like there's space for both.
Right. Yeah, and I hear this a lot, that if the price is not right for you, then they're not your customer, and there's a place for them. So your customers out there, you have plenty of customers that are repeat customers, so you never have a problem with finding them. Do you feel like there's an advantage for you having plushies where there's a lot of other TCGs, or it's maybe just a TCG show?
I think so, because my display is very unique and it stands out. And there's always people looking for merch, and it's really hard to find in the US. There's only so many sellers that are able to sell that have that available here. With the TCG, there's a lot of unique cards and slabs out there, but if you're going through like 50, 60, 70 tables of all TCG, you kind of burn out after a while.
Right.
So I feel like I have a slight advantage, but where I have a disadvantage is when it comes to selling TCG, because people see all my plushies and they think, oh, she doesn't have anything good at her table.
I can't think of anyone that doesn't stop at your table. Like you said, your display is great because it's not just plushies, it's the international snacks and drinks and everything else. So you might be the only one that has any kind of snacks, and people see, oh wow, this is something unique. I want to try that, or these different Kit Kats, or this different drink that you may only see here. So I think that's a huge advantage that you have, because especially if people are walking around those shows for hours, they get hungry.
They get hungry and thirsty.
Right.
We've had a couple of people who come over and ask, oh, do you have anything to drink? I'm really thirsty.
You're like, as a matter of fact, I do. What do you think your biggest challenge is as a vendor?
I would say keeping track of what I sell and what I still have left over. Because I also have a website, so when everything is going really fast and I'm not able to update my website right then and there, then sometimes I might end up selling stuff online that I've already sold at a show. So I would say keeping up with what I've got and what I've sold during the show is a challenge. And then I guess just setting up in general. It's just it's a big setup, but I'm glad to have the help when I need it.
Oh my God, lost my question. What's your favorite plushie to adopt out? Do you have a favorite?
My favorite to adopt out, I would say one that's been in the orphanage for way too long.
Yeah.
But I would say any plush that gets adopted is makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm sure that all of them have like a little piece of your heart. I've seen on your stories before, you'll have 3 Pikachus that are lined up, and you say which is the cutest. And it's too hard. I mean, they look like they could be identical. If you walk past them, they could be identical, but they all
have little nuances about them.
Yeah, exactly. Their own little personality, and they're plushies. But I see them, and I could see how people could have such a huge connection to them. What have you done Collecticon before? Are you planning on doing any Collecticons this year?
So I did Richmond Collecticon as my first one last year. Only because that was the only one that fit into my schedule and was close enough to drive to. But this year I'm going to Atlanta, and I'm also going to Los Angeles.
Wow, that's awesome. How are you planning on shipping everything? Do you have are you driving to Atlanta, or are you flying, and are you shipping everything?
Yeah, so for Atlanta, we're going to drive down there. I'm going to rent a big Sprinter van like I did for Richmond. So we're just going to drive down there. It's about a 14 to 15 hour drive. So that'll be fine for the weekend. But for LA, I'm definitely going to have to ship my stuff. So I got a couple of quotes on shipping a pallet. So it's just a matter of like getting myself together and just like putting the pallet together and deciding on a shipping company.
Yeah. Wow. How do you feel about content creation and selling your plushies? Do you feel like they're by putting everything out on your stories, it increases sales to your website, or do you think that it really doesn't matter? Is it a big part, or do you think that it doesn't really affect anything?
I think it definitely helps. With content creation, it's hard for me to keep up with posting every other day and to create and to edit stuff. But I'm able to do the stories, and people enjoy the stories. I get a lot of positive feedback on the unboxing videos that I do, and it definitely helps because it puts people's eyes on products, and it might bring attention to what they don't realize I had. So it definitely helps. And then I feel like in the beginning when I was starting out, it definitely helped with my credibility because there's so many fakes out there that people don't know what they're getting.
Right.
I actually had someone tell me that from my stories, they saw that I had the orange receipts from Pokemon Center. So that's how they were able to determine that the stuff that I was getting is legitimate. So yeah, it definitely helps. I just probably would not be able to keep up with any other kind of content creation, just because I'm not really into editing and
Yeah.
I really want to pay an editor, and I'm not good at keeping up with posts.
So for the future, where do you see yourself? Do you think that you're going to keep on doing shows? Do you think that you'll focus more on your website? What's the future look like for the New York City Plushie Queen?
So that's hard for me to say right now. I would love to keep doing shows and to maintain the website. Right now, I want to see how this year goes. I definitely want to keep doing shows, but maybe not as much as I used to do. Before I was doing like 3-4 shows a month, and now if I think about doing 3 a month, and I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But people have brought up hiring employees. That's also on my mind if I want to like branch out and be able to vend at more shows. But just like thinking about the logistics is a lot for me right now.
Yeah.
But
Having people pick up your supplies and
mhm.
and bringing them to the shows, keeping inventory and all that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts there. So I
Mhm.
could see and being able to trust someone with your babies
Yeah.
essentially. I mean, they're not just transporting, like, these are very expensive. I mean, in some cases very expensive plushies, but the
Mhm.
abundance of it, it's an
It's a
accumulation
lot.
it's a lot.
Right, yeah,
I
and
could see how it could be very hard to trust someone,
mhm.
although it could be a little easier on you with the setup and the breakdown and just dealing with people. Because I've seen at the Long Island TCG show, your table is just, it's hopping. It's from the minute I got there to the minute I left, you did not stop. You were just going, going, going. I was like, oh my God, she's a machine. It was just insane how busy you were, but it was awesome to see, because at my show I can't really see it because I'm running around doing everything
Yeah.
else. So when I was able to experience seeing you at a different show, it was a whole nother level. So I could see how that could be harder to sustain, especially every weekend. It must
Mhm.
be exhausted mentally, physically. I mean, we'd mentioned
Yeah.
the setup and the breakdown, but even the interactions with people, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I
It's
definitely try my
nonstop.
best. Yeah, I try my best to, like, give everyone the attention. Like, if I see
Right.
someone who's trying to get my attention, I'll call them out and ask them how I can help. Um, and my fiancé is there to help me as well, so, sometimes he'll ask people what they need, but, um, he doesn't know the Pokemon like I know the Pokemon, so sometimes
Right.
he'll still have to ask me, like, "How much is this? Who's this? What's that?"
Get it together.
It's a lot of Pokemon, so I don't blame him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta
Um,
give him the 151 map.
oh
You
my
just
god.
you find it.
I know, I was testing him the other day. He kinda knows the basics, but
Yeah,
like Pokemon like Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee is like, I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I'd be lost too. Someone who wants to break into the hobby or break into vending, what advice would you give them?
I would say the number one advice is don't overspend. It's very easy to get lost in the sauce and want to order a bunch at once, but it's important to make sure you're able to sell something before you get so much of anything. Um, I do the same thing as well. Like if I'm not sure that something's gonna sell, I'll get like 1 or 2 or 3 just to test it out and see how it goes. Um, but yeah, that'll be my number one advice. Don't spend more than what you're able to repay at the end of the month.
Did you find that it was hard for you to build the relationships overseas?
I don't think so, because there's so many people and services who are willing to help. So and most of the times these people are already in the business, so they know what to do, and I don't really have to tell them anything. I just tell them this is what I need, how much is it going to be, how do I pay you, and that's it. And with everything being done over the internet, like the language barrier isn't an issue. Unless sometimes, like, with the nuances in language, one thing might come off meaning something else than another.
Right. Did you do you find it hard to trust the people that you're working with overseas, or is it just you have to take the leap and just go with the first order? Because doing a $200 order versus a $5,000 order, it could be scary.
Yeah. I mean, when working with individuals, it is harder to trust. But whatever payment I send, it's through PayPal goods and services. And I use my Amex, so I feel like I have double protection in that sense.
Yeah,
definitely. I remember when I was first making a purchase, I wasn't sure if the stuff that they were selling was legitimate, so I put in one order and I waited for that to come in. And once I saw that it was legitimate, then I started ordering more. So it's like a little trial and error. You
right.
feel it out, or you look at their reviews if they have reviews, and you kind of just go with your gut.
Oh, so there's like websites that you can get in touch with these people, and then they have reviews that they're legitimate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or I'll run a Google search to see what people say. Like sometimes I'll find a Reddit post about this person or this service, and I'll go from there.
Do you what do you do with plushies that sit for a long time? Does anything sit for a long time?
I've had a couple of things that sit. So I'll either put them in a story to kind of put more eyes on them, or I'll bring it to a show and I'll put it at like an eye level with either for an adult or for a child, just to try to like push it out there. Some things do sit for a while, but it's funny because I might have something for a while and then all of a sudden everyone wants it, and then I only have like 2 and I can't get any more. So yeah, I guess it's like Pokemon cards, right? And people will not want to set. It's garbage. They can't get it. And now it's like I need it. Yeah.
Right.
And then you can't get anything.
Right. How do you feel about the state of the Pokemon market right now?
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, the TCG market is it's exploded. Excuse me. It's exploded, and you can't really find anything at even MSRP anymore. So I'm hoping like it'll cool down, but I feel like with the next 2 sets that are coming out, it's gonna be hard. I feel like we're in it for a ride.
Yeah, I was worried for a little while that there were because in New Jersey right now there's a show every weekend. There's a show every day on the weekend, and you start to get scared. Is it going to get flooded, or are people going to stop wanting to go to shows? But it seems like there's so many new people, new collectors, new vendors, new like everything. People who are new to the hobby, people who are just coming back to the hobby, people are just really hungry for Pokemon and all TCGs.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens, but I mean, I'm also hopeful, but cautious. I guess we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that there's always people coming back into the hobby or rediscovering the hobby, and everything that's available there. It's just concerning that right now that there's just the TCG is hard to find.
Right.
With the Pokemon merchandise, like the plushies and other things, things go in and out of stock on the Japan site. But the nice part about the merch is that pretty much over almost every week there's new stuff coming out. So I'm able to keep it fresh for people, and just like it doesn't get stale too quickly.
Yeah, I when I see all of your shipments coming in every week, I think to myself, oh my goodness, like where has she put this? Yeah, I know in New York, it's the space is very limited. So
Yeah.
unless you're living in like a mansion, I mean, it must be hard for you to keep stock. So it's good because you're probably selling it all, right? Or do you have a place where you're storing everything?
So I have a pretty big storage unit, and I keep all of my overstock over there. And I keep, like, as you can see, I keep some stock in my office at home. And if I run out, I'll go to my storage unit and I'll pick some off the shelf. Because I sold so much over the holidays, I had to do a major restock. So right now I'm like drowning in plushies.
Got to get to some shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many? What's the next show that you're going to?
So I'll be at Bellworks this Saturday. So.
And then do you have it the next? And then Atlanta will be coming up. What's the date for Atlanta?
Yeah. So Atlanta will be February, I think 8th and 9th. I think that's over Super Bowl weekend.
Oh, well, I'm like, I guess we don't know who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl, or I don't even know where it is. Like sports? What sports?
I'm not a football fan, so I don't know.
No, me either. So I'm like, oh yeah.
I just hope that Sunday will be good.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be good. I mean, I don't think that I think that last year there was a football game on one of the weekends of Collecticon. I have to research that and then see how people did. It may have been Richmond. I don't remember. For some reason, I think Ditto Dudes was at a Collecticon at the same weekend as Super Bowl, but I'll have to look into it. Last year, there's so many POV videos. I'm sure I can research. Have you ever thought about doing any kind of POV? I know you said that you're not really much for editing or anything like that, or like a day in the life of. You ever think about like, okay, this is what I have to do to pick up everything and go in my car? Ever want to do anything like that?
I have thought about it, but I feel like it's something that it might be a lot for me to keep up with.
Yeah.
I can always hire an editor, but I don't think that's something I would want to do.
Right.
My fiance said that I should make a video of just like me setting up.
Yeah,
I feel
definitely.
like people would definitely enjoy watching that just because my setup is so elaborate. But then I would have to get like a selfie stand and.
Yeah, I mean, I got a tripod. I'll bring it for you. I know. I definitely think that people would like that. I've seen other setup videos, and it's interesting. It's just so interesting to me. Plus, how involved, like you said, how involved your setup is, and if you put one here, could fall. I mean, I'm sure that's like the half of the battle, right? Is making sure everything's set up and it doesn't fall down.
Right. Well, I've got it to a point where like I use those wire mesh cages, so it's a lot more supportive now than what it was before, when I was just having shelving without any back to it. So because the cages have a back to it, I don't have to worry about the plush falling backwards. I just worry that my tables behind the main tables don't give out on me.
Oh my gosh. Like yeah, you don't want people to be like shopping through Rubbermaid bins. You're just
yeah, exactly. But yeah, my setup has definitely evolved over the years. I try like at every show right before it starts to take a picture of my setup, and just like going through the pictures of how it's evolved over the years, it's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like even from going to our first show when your setup then and versus where it is now, to cover 2 whole tables, and everything. It's not just 2 tables wide. It goes up, and there's
a lot of
everything. Yeah, right. I would just it's incredible. But like we said earlier, like if you don't show it off, then you can't sell it. And I mean, like I know that people they could be very specific about every Pokemon. There was a Reddit post recently that of all 151 original Pokemon, I think there were 2 that people didn't pick out of all the people. So I'm sure that there's very nuanced little Pokemon that there's someone is out there and they want it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I always get requests for obscure Pokemon, and I tell them I don't have it, but if I can source it, just shoot me a DM and I'll let you know if I can source it. For me, like I tend to stock the ones that I know are going to move, that are going to get adopted. But I have a few that I took a chance on, and it just took longer to get adopted.
Yeah, I'm sure that the stories definitely help, because I mean, there's something about the way that you show everything off and you pose them and everything. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But you're definitely the first person I think of if anyone is looking for a plush. I'm just like, oh yeah, I gotta go to Karen, because it's just like really great. It's great quality. You get great service, and and of course you know that it's authentic.
Yeah, definitely. That's the number one thing that people look for. And I usually ship stuff out within 1 to 2 business days.
Oh, wow.
So people are always happy to get their stuff quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure with the economy, the buy it now, one click, everyone wants it right now. And if
the instant gratification.
Yeah, exactly. So you gotta be quick, and getting it from you rather than waiting from it coming from Japan or eBay or something like that. I mean, at least they know it's coming from within the US, and you'll get it to them.
Yeah, and even if people have to wait 2 to 4 weeks for a pre-order item to come in, like people are willing to wait. There have been times where I oversell something and I let the customer know. I say, I'm sorry, but I oversold this, or I sold it at a show and I didn't update my website. I can get more. Are you able to wait? And most times people are able to wait because they know where they're getting it from. They know who they're getting it from. So yeah, I find that the community's been very kind and understanding.
Yeah, I think that it's also the amount of service that you give people, and people know that like things happen. I mean, like if you called me and said, "Hey, Marilyn, the plushie that you're looking for, I oversold it. I'm sorry." I mean, this is an honest mistake. I don't think that you're going and you're intentionally trying to hurt anyone, but you're especially with something like that. I mean, like because you have all these repeat customers, like we've talked about before. Like you're able to build these relationships, and people know if know that you're going to be at this table, they want to go to your table because you give them a smile, you say hello, you give them really great customer service.
Yeah. I always ask if they're thinking about adopting a plush. I ask them, do you want to touch it? Do you want to hold him? And then some people would tell me, no, I better not, because
I know
if I touch it, that's it, I'm done.
Right. Because they're so soft, and they're so, yeah, I know. I'm a sucker too. I mean, like not a sucker, but I mean, like if I touch it, that's it. I'm done. Yeah, how do you what sets you aside from other vendors? What do you think that you can provide that other vendors don't provide?
Definitely the variety of stock. Even when I was at Collecticon, I saw there were multiple plushie sellers, but nobody had the kind of variety that I did. Like a lot of people had like a few, like 5-10 different kinds. But when I did that Collecticon, I had just come back from Japan, so I had all these Japanese exclusives, and I had people like look through them and pick out the Pikachus that they like. One guy snatched up one of the Pikachus. He's like, "This is very rare. Like you can only get this in Japan." So,
yeah, give me.
Like he was telling his girlfriend, like, "This is very rare. You can only get this in Japan." So definitely the variety that I offer. I offer in addition to plushies from Japan, I'm delving into a lot of products from China. So I like to browse the marketplace in China, and I'm finding like things that you never would have seen. Like today, I just got in these snow globes from China, and they're official. They're not from Pokemon Center, but they're from a licensed brand that partners with China. Wow. So I'm excited to get those listed. There's just so much more variety that I'm finding out from China. Like they've really been stepping up their game.
Are you going based on what people like, or do you go by what you like when you're sourcing products?
A little bit of both.
That things are Charizards, Pikachus, they're always going to sell. But when you're sourcing something like snow globes, are you like, oh, I'm going to take a chance on this? Or is it just based on the trends that you've been seeing?
So I take both into account. Like, you always want to stock things that people like, just because they're going to do well and people are going to want them. With the snow globes, all the Pokemon that were featured in the snow globes happen to be popular ones, like Pikachu, Sylveon, Gengar, Eevee. So those are all really popular Pokemon. So I decided, because I wasn't sure like how big they were going to be and how difficult it was going to be to ship it over, I only got 3 of each to try out. And then like I also look at things sometimes and I think to myself, oh, I like this. This looks cute. I'm sure someone else will too. But I try to make my decisions based on primarily what people like, because at the end of the day, it's not for myself. It's for everyone who wants to make an adoption. So a little bit of both, but mostly what people like.
What's your favorite plushie? Do you have a favorite plushie, or are you stay away from them because you don't want to get high on your own supply? What are you?
I try not to get high off of my own supply. But one that I really want for my own personal collection is the Pokédoll Raichu. Which it's not in production right now, and I want to see like if they not reprint, if they re-release it at some point, because they've been re-releasing a bunch of older plush, so I'm waiting it out and see if I can get one with the tag. So that's one I want for my collection. I actually ended up keeping a Heracross backpack from the Bug Out collection last year. So he travels with me to some of the Pokemon events. I've got a big button on Heracross with my logo on it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a huge advertisement for yourself too, because you're like, oh yeah, But I gotta tell you that I remember seeing it was probably, I think it was Dr. Yugimon or one of the guys, they put a story out and they were like, oh, Karen, can you find this Magikarp purse? Oh, yeah. And it was like, boom. I was like, I had no doubt that you were going to have it, but it was like, I don't know, 5 minutes went by and there it was, Karen. She's like, this is what it is.
Yep.
And like,
and it's in Shoal's collection right now.
Right? That's awesome. Like I like you're the source. Like if anyone ever wants to know like any obscure plushie or where it was from or what's like where to find it, or Karen is the source. She could find it. I mean, like that. How did you do that? How did you find?
So it was through Google image search. Anytime I can do an image search, that's good. That works for me. But I don't feel like I'm the best person to source older plushies. Just because like to really search for it, you have to know the Japanese characters. Just to like search them up. And I can use like keywords, but it can be difficult sometimes. There's actually another plush seller. She's been in this game for longer than I have. Her name's Legendary Luna. So she's actually really good at sourcing like old plushies, and she knows like a lot of the history behind the different Pokemon merch. And she's been in this business for a lot longer than I have.
Do you ever have to reach out to her, or do you just refer people to her?
I refer people to her, only because it's easier just for them to have the direct communication if they're looking for something.
Yeah.
And I don't expect anything in return. I just tell people, I don't think I can find this for you, but she's someone who might.
That's good that you're not gatekeeping that kind of information. You want to make sure that everyone gets to to what they want.
Yeah, and she's I've seen her help other collectors source like really hard to find items as in the past. So she would be my number one recommendation for older plushies.
Is she based out of this area, or is she just US based?
Yeah, she's US based. I believe she's in Minnesota or Michigan.
Oh,
one of around there. So yeah.
Wow, I would imagine that she would be on one of the coasts for some reason, because I'm just thinking, because you want to go to Japan, but I guess if we're living on the East Coast, it's not any closer than. When's your next trip to Japan?
I don't know yet. I'm trying to see like where and when I'm going to go on an actual vacation. Because last year the Japan trip was my one vacation a year, but it was actually more work than vacation. But my dad asked me, because when I went back to Japan the second time last year, I asked my parents if they wanted to come with me, and they both passed because they were worried about any potential hurricanes, because they live in Coney Island, where they're near the beach, and when Sandy hit, they got hit pretty badly, so they just didn't feel comfortable leaving the house during the hurricane season in New York.
Yeah.
So my dad recently asked me, he said, if you're going to Japan, let me know, because I want to go.
You're like, I'm trying to go to the Caribbean. I'm not. Dad, come on. Oh man. I mean, there's worse places you can go, right? I mean, like going to Japan, it's but the flight is super long. But yeah. If it'll be a nice experience for you to go with your family.
Yeah.
And then they could carry your bags. You can put them to work.
Take them. But hopefully, I mean, I'm not dying to go back anytime soon. Only because I just did a major restock, and it's good to just have a rotation of stuff. And also, like, going there, there's a chance that when I get there, they might not have what I need. Right. For example, when I went back the second time, I was just like a few days too late to get the Kyoto exclusive Pikachu. So I went to Kyoto, but I ended up not being able to get what I wanted. So there's that chance of happening too.
Is it as competitive to get product in Japan as is in the US?
In a sense, yes and no. For the exclusive stuff, there's usually not like big competition, but when I was there the second time, when I was there in October, they were releasing the Christmas heartwarming Christmas collection. So they usually do new releases on a Saturday. So my friend and I, we went, and turns out like before the store even opened, there were lines of people just waiting to get in, and they were handing out tickets.
Oh man.
But people there are very, very cordial, very, I don't want to say civilized, but more civilized.
Well, they're not like 151 releases over at Costco.
No, not at all. Like people will wait online, they'll wait their turn. I remember waiting online at one of the Pokemon centers, and I'm just like, my body was just like getting really antsy. I was like, I just want to go, but everyone's like calmly waiting in line.
They're like, oh no, she's got to be American. You're just like,
yeah. I remember so on the release day for the heartwarming Christmas collection, we didn't get into the store like around until 11:45 a.m. By that point, like all the Pikachus were gone. So, but even though people were clamoring for stuff, there's no snatching, there's no like running and grabbing stuff. People were just like, excuse me, like gently reaching for things.
Do you feel compelled to like really just like go because you're it's supermarket sweep, you got to get everything and like get out of there, and you're like it's just not the culture. You're like, oh
no, it's not.
Okay.
like I'll be fast. Like I was holding back really.
Right.
I was really holding back, not like snatching things or not like rushing to the shelf.
Little kid is like trying to decide. You're like, give me that, kid.
I saw this one girl, she was walking around with the Marsh Stomp sweater. And at that point they were already sold out. I was like, where did she get that? And she's just like,
you're gonna take that?
She just had it in her basket and she's just like casually looking at stuff. And I'm just like, my intrusive thoughts were like, don't snatch it from her basket.
You're like, I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah. But yeah, they're very, it's crazy how much restraint they have, because us here, like, we see something we want and we're just like, I have to have it. And I don't care who I knock over to get it. Meanwhile, over there, it's like, okay, like, you got here first. This is yours. And somebody actually, somebody had like 3 Pikachus in their basket, and somebody wanted a Pikachu. She actually gave her one of the Pikachus.
Oh, I could never. It's like giving someone a prismatic. It's like, oh, okay. No, like, people,
you're like,
forget it. Like, no, oh, your 7-year-old kid, it's his birthday today. Oh, and he's his terminal something. Oh no, sorry.
It's like it really made you feel like crap.
Well,
in a sense, you're like, wow. Wow, we don't deserve nice things.
We have a really good question in the chat. Lost Collections wants to know, do you see yourself opening a brick and mortar in the future?
I don't think so, to be honest, unless I can let go and hire somebody to look after my store. But my mom, she, when I was in middle school, she opened a nail salon, and seeing her work in her nail salon, she wasn't able to step away. And I just feel like I'm the same way as her. Like, I wouldn't be able to trust anybody enough to let go and let them run the business. And I feel like good help is really hard to find.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel like it'll be too much for me to have a brick and mortar, because I just wouldn't be able to step away from it.
So owning a business is in your blood.
Yeah.
So your family has also owned businesses before, and you mentioned your brother when we first started. Is he in TCG, or is he in selling or anything like that?
No. So he was into the card game when we were little, but he's in tech, so he's not really into the business aspect. My dad, he had like a partnership with some friends, like, way back in the day, doing like mechanical and HVAC stuff. When I was in middle school, my mom, that was when we first discovered Costco. We went to Costco. My mom bought all the chocolates. We bought the chocolates, and she was like, "You're gonna sell these to your classmates and tell them it's for your brother's school."
Hustling. So you've been hustling since middle school.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Nice. I mean, like, it's good that you learned early. I mean, like, you also saw that, like, it gives you lots of skills, right? You were counting money skills and hustling skills, and your ability to talk to people, and I mean, like, you were able to see, like, instant gratification when it came to working. Like, you were able to sell something and you got your money. So that's awesome. I mean, like, you started in middle school selling chocolates, and now look at you. You have a whole plushie empire. You're the New York City Plushie Queen. Like, that's a huge title, and that's exactly who you are. Did you know that you were going to fulfill this destiny when you came up with your name?
Honestly, no, I didn't think it would grow to be as big as it is today. When I was thinking up of names, I was like, I knew I have a lot of plushies, and I'm not one to, like, boast and be out there. I'm more humble, but I was like, I can't think of anything else besides Plushie Queen, because I literally have the most amount of plushies. And then I decided to add NYC in the beginning, so people know I'm from the US. Because a lot of people will ask, like, are you shipping from the US, or are you shipping from overseas? Because some people might order stuff and drop ship it from Japan straight to their address. But I get all my stuff in here, into New York, and then I ship it out. So some thought went into the name.
Yeah, no, that's great. I didn't think about it from that aspect, that people, instead of thinking that you were an overseas seller, that they know that you're from New York, or at least it's in the name. And like, it's So also they know that they're communicating with someone who is in New York,
right?
Rather than trying to get in touch with someone overseas. So that's great. I mean, that's great marketing that I never really thought about, but that's great.
Yeah. It also probably means I can never leave in New York City.
Right.
Or if I do, I just
want for life, right? I mean, like you're a New Yorker. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. I'm like, no matter where you go, I mean, like you can move to Florida and people are still going to know. They're going to be like, she's from New York because the way that she grabs those Pikachus.
Exactly.
So the next show is going to be Liquid Games, and then you're going to Collecticon and LA, and you have so many shows lined up for this coming year. And you have your website. So what's your website? How can we find you?
So my website is nycplushieshop.com.
And your Instagram, is that the best way to find you, or are you on any other social medias?
Just Instagram would be the best way. So my Instagram is NYC Plushie Queen. You can either send me a DM or shoot me an email on my website. I would say I respond to both, but DMs might be faster if you're trying to make like a quick purchase.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Karen, for meeting with us today. And it was great to getting to know you a little better and hearing your vendor origin story and everything that you have going on in the future and how you started, and the future is so bright for you. And you're fearless. If anyone can ask anything about Karen other than her being incredibly kind and business oriented, I would say that she's fearless, because it's not easy to go from like one table or selling anything at a table alone to the amount of products that you have, being able to source it from overseas, going to Japan by yourself. That's incredible. I mean, these are things that, like, did you imagine like little Karen in middle school selling chocolates? Did you think that you would be going and traveling on your own? Was that something that were you always someone that was very independent?
I would say so. This was not the first time I traveled to another country by myself. So right before my grad school graduation, I had like a week in between. And right after my graduation, I was going to start my field work. And then my plan after field work was to take my boards right away. So the way I saw it, I was like, I don't know how much time I'm going to have to travel after I graduate. So let me just squeeze in something for this week. So I started searching up trips and finding something that fit within my budget. And Africa came up.
Wow.
So I flew into Zambia. We went to Zambia, Botswana, and I spent like a couple hours in South Africa. It was with a tour group, and it was cheap because there was no hotel. Like, we pitched our own tents. I brought a sleeping bag.
In Africa, you just like roughed it in Africa. This is the first time that you've ever traveled alone. You're like, hey, where could I go?
And first time
I guess
a sleeping bag.
Wow.
I was with a tour group, so I felt more safe, but I didn't go with any friends. I went by myself. I didn't know anybody in that tour group. Everyone was from Australia or New Zealand or the UK. I was the only American in my tour group. So that was the first time I went traveling by myself. And when my parents told my aunt that I'm in Africa by myself, she was like, are you serious? Like, let her go? So my mom was like, yeah, like, we're not going to not let her. She was like, my mom said, well, am I supposed to not let her? And my aunt said, yeah, don't let her go. But I came back, I was fine.
No one's holding you back from anything, Karen. You just go for it. And it's awesome. You have a fearless approach to everything, to vending, to traveling, to your business. It's really inspiring. I'm really happy that we had got some time to talk to you today.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to try everything once, and I'm more of a hands-on learner. So once I'm in it, then I'm like, okay, so this is how it works. This doesn't work like this. This works like this. I'm always looking to learn something new.
Yeah. Oh, thank you again. So that's going to be us wrapping up. And look for Karen at the Liquid Games Show and the Collecticons that are going to be near you, and her website, as well as on Instagram. And again, thank you.
Thanks so much, Marilyn.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Have a good night.